Okay, this is section 1.2, part 2, where we're going to look at evaluating order of operations. All right, and you guys probably remember the term PEMDAS, which stands for Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, and you may use that to remember the order to perform the operations properly in algebra. So what does PEMDAS stand for? Let's quickly review that. The P stands for parentheses. The E stands for exponents. M is multiplication. D is division. A is addition. And S is subtraction. And if you've noticed here, I've got it numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is the exact order in which you should apply these operations. I have only 4 of them because multiplication and division are actually grouped together, as well as addition and subtraction. You're not always going to perform your multiplication before division. All right? These come in a group. So as you're looking at the problem from left to right, you want to evaluate multiplication and division from left to right. If division comes first, before multiplication, you're going to evaluate that first. So I'm going to make a little note here. So you're going to evaluate these two from left to right. And the same holds true for addition and subtraction. Doesn't matter if subtraction comes before addition, you're always going to evaluate from left to right. So, now that we've got that little review down, let's look at a couple problems. So we'll use green. Alright, so the first problem we'll look at is 1/6 times the quantity, 6 plus 18 minus 2 squared. So, looking at this, I see I've got some multiplication here, I've got parentheses, addition inside the parentheses, subtraction, and I also have an exponent. So I'm going to go back up here to my PEMDAS and say, okay, what do I want to look for first? First thing is parentheses. And I can see I do have parentheses here, so that's what I'm going to evaluate first. All right, the first piece I'm going to evaluate is my 6 plus 18. So I'm going to drop down my 1/6. 6 plus 18, well, that gives me 24 minus 2 squared. So there's nothing left to do in parentheses, so I need to go down the list and see, second thing is exponents. So do I have an exponent? I do. So the second piece I want to evaluate is right here, my 2 squared. So I've got my 1/6. I'm going to drop down the 24 minus 2 squared is 4. Remember what we did with our evaluating powers, the negative was not actually contained in parentheses, so I'm not going to evaluate that negative within the power. It's just the 2 squared. Alright, so now I've got multiplication and division. That's the next group. So I've got a fraction here, which is going to be multiplied by the 24. So 1/6 of 24 is, sometimes it's hard to do that in your head, so you can think about this as 2 fractions actually, and you would just multiply across. So 1 times 24 is 24, 6 times 1 is 6, minus 4. 24 divided by 6, well, that's 4. And 4 minus 4 is 0. So we've successfully evaluated this problem using order of operations. I'm going to go back. If you didn't want to multiply across, I'm just going to show you a different way. You could have used cross simplification. Said, the 1's cancel. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 6 goes into 6 once. And now all I have left is my 4. So I could have bypassed this step using the cross simplification, and I would have just 4 minus 4 is 0. All right, let's look at one more problem. Second problem is 8 times the quantity 20 minus the quantity 9 minus 5 squared plus 3 squared. All right, so we're looking at a problem like this because we actually have multiple parentheses. All right, brackets act as parentheses, as do parentheses. So when you have multiple parentheses, you want to look at the innermost parentheses first and evaluate as much as you can in those parentheses before you then start moving out. So the first thing what we're going to do is we know PEMDAS. So first thing is parentheses, and I said we have 2. So we want to look at the innermost parentheses, which occur right. Oops, get rid of this. Occur right here. So we've got 9 minus 5. So I'm going to drop down the 8, drop down the 20, 9 minus 5, well that's 4. So I've got 4 squared, and then I'm going to drop down my 3 squared. So there's nothing left for me to do there, so I'm still working on my P, my parentheses, and now I'm going to the outermost parentheses, and I can see that there's a lot to do in here. So once you get into your outermost parentheses, your order of operations starts over. So we've already done the parentheses. All right, now we want to look to see if we have exponents, and we do. We have 2 sets of exponents. We've got 4 squared, and we have 3 squared. So we're going to evaluate both of those. So I've got 8 times the quantity 20 minus 4 squared, which is 16, plus 3 squared, which is 9. And the last thing I need to do is, inside the parentheses, not in the whole problem, is my addition and subtraction. We've skipped over multiplication and division because there is no multiplication and division in the parentheses. So I'm going to take all addition and subtraction together as a group, and remember I'm going to evaluate it from left to right. So I've got 8 times the quantity, 20 minus 16, that gives me 4. So I'll just drop down 4 plus 9. Alright, so I evaluated this piece first, dropped down the 9, and now I can see 4 plus 9, well that's 13. And the last bit for me to do is multiplication. So 8 times 13 is 104. Okay, so those are a couple examples with order of operations.